What's up guys, Roman from RS Entertainment here with this week's episode of Comic History, the series where we talk about iconic origins and storylines in the world of comics. In this video, we're continuing with our symbiote origins with the long-awaited origin of Carnage. Cletus Kasady, aka Carnage, is probably the second most well-known symbiote character next to Venom, and is a fan favorite, embodying pure chaos and nastiness in a way that few other characters do. As the son of Venom, Carnage is a major character in symbiote mythos, and has a host of great storylines centered around him, including Maximum and Minimum Carnage, Carnage USA, Deadpool vs. Carnage, which we covered in a previous episode, and so many more. This is an origin I've been excited to do for a while, and it's finally time, so let's jump right in. The origin of Cletus Kasady, the mentally insane serial killer that would go on to become the host of the Carnage symbiote, occurs in sporadic panels throughout the Amazing Spider-Man issues 344, 345, 359, and 360, and then follows up with a 4-issue storyline where Spider-Man and Venom team up for the first time to fight Carnage. It's an iconic storyline both within Spider-Man and symbiote mythos, and we will be covering the entire thing in this video. Our story starts out in the Rikers Island prison complex, where Eddie Brock has been locked away after the apparent death of the Venom symbiote, with his cellmate Cletus Kasady, a deranged serial killer serving 11 consecutive life sentences, often sitting around listening to heavy metal music or just being annoyed at Brock's constant workout regimen, which Eddie claims is to keep his body and spirit in peak condition so that he can avenge the death of his other, the Venom symbiote. Kasady tells him that he doesn't need Venom, he only needs the willpower and courage to do things that others are scared to do, like murdering innocent people. Kasady sees the eyes of Venom lurking outside the cell window, and one night when Brock's workout was disrupting Cletus's enjoyment of his Motley Crue tape, he decides another life sentence is totally worth it, and goes to murder Eddie with a shiv. But suddenly he sees the night air outside the window come alive, and the Venom symbiote rejoins with Eddie to once again create Venom, who punches through the walls of the prison, freeing himself while a terrified Cletus wonders what the hell just happened. Several issues later, we return to the cell of Cletus Kasady, who is seemingly talking to himself, carrying on a full conversation until a guard asks him if the confinement is getting to him, and Cletus looses the Carnage symbiote, which had been left behind when Venom escaped, and brutally pulls the guard through the prison bars, killing him and escaping in a similar fashion as Venom. We then see Carnage begin randomly killing people for no reason at all, picking people out of the phone book who had weird names, claiming that law and order were a lie, that chaos was the only real truth, and signing his name in the blood of his victims, leaving a giant bloody carnage at each scene. He does this about 12 or 13 times, and on the 13th kill, his victim is a schoolmate and friend of Peter Parker, who has been following the swath of brutal murders throughout New York as Spider-Man, spines being torn out, limbs being rearranged and ripped off of bodies, all with the name of Carnage spread in blood at each scene. Investigating the site of his friend's murder, Spider-Man hears a witness describe a monster with living skin that grew ropes and swung away. This leads Spider-Man to assume that Venom is behind these killings, which he tells Mary Jane as he goes back over the events in Venom's origin, which I covered in my very first episode of Comic History, and the events of Venom Returns, which is a topic for another video. Peter researches Eddie Brock's activities since escaping from Rikers, and upon discovering that Brock's cellmate was an unrepentant mass murderer, and that the circumstances surrounding his escape were the same as Venom's, it must be him. Spider-Man then goes around questioning several leads around New York about Cletus, mostly not gaining any useful information, but eventually being pointed to the burned ruins of St. Estes, where Carnage grew up and eventually killed the headmistress before burning the building down to cover it up. Spider-Man finds a naked Cletus sitting in front of a fire, creepily baby talking to his old teddy bear, and then whirling around with the symbiote around his face, saying that Spider-Man was violating his sanctuary. Carnage and Spider-Man fight, and through the battle, which really just amounts to Spider-Man trying to stay alive, Carnage shows off his new symbiotic powers and how they differ from Venom's. Carnage can create weapons out of the symbiote and even shoot or fling them at Spider-Man, though the weapons shortly disintegrate after being separated from the main body. Like Venom, he doesn't require his human eyes to see, as the symbiote grants him its own sensory perception, nor does he trigger Spidey's spider sense, and he of course has incredible strength, even stronger than the Venom symbiote, durability, speed, and a healing factor. Basically an enhanced version of Spider-Man's powers. For information on why that is, go check out the Origin of Venom episode of Comic History. Carnage seriously wounds a police officer who tries to interfere, and Spider-Man is knocked out of the building while he's distracted, coming back to find the building empty and a message written in blood that reads "Carnage rules." Note that Carnage never actually touched the wounded cop, which Spider-Man realizes means that Carnage cut himself to write the message in his own blood. Later, Peter and Mary Jane see that Carnage's murder spree is continuing, and the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, and and basically everyone who deals with large-scale problems are tied up in planetary affairs, and feeling responsible for Carnage's existence, he knows that he's on his own to stop him. Knowing that there's only one person he could go to for information on both Carnage and Cletus Kasady, Spider-Man makes the difficult and to him horrifying decision of setting Venom loose. After the events in Venom Returns, Eddie Brock believes that he killed Spider-Man in their last battle, and thus has peacefully accepted a life of quiet training on the island where he beat Spider-Man. Armed with the sonic rifle Reed Richards developed to fight the symbiote in the origin of Venom, Spider-Man, accompanied by the Human Torch, whose fire powers can also harm the symbiote, flies to the island he left Venom on, thinking to himself that he should have locked Eddie away in the Raft, a prison for superpowered criminals, but that the real reason he left him here was because he was afraid of him. Spider-Man approaches Eddie, who is peacefully enjoying the fact that he killed Spider-Man, and when he hears Spider-Man talk to him, he flies into a rage of disbelief, launching himself at Spider-Man with the Venom symbiote wrapping around him. Spider-Man blasts him with the sonic rifle, and though it harms the symbiote, Venom's hatred allows him to push through it and bash Spider-Man to the ground, destroying the sonic rifle in the process. Another punch launches Spider-Man away, and the Human Torch jumps in, blasting Venom with fire and creating a circle of fire around him. But Venom sends the symbiote underground and blasts Torch with sand, dampening his flames as Venom chokes him nearly to death. He submerges Torch under the waves and continues to drown him as he whirls around to face Spider-Man. Desperate, the Human Torch uses his strongest Nova Flame to flash Venom's grip off of him, and Spider-Man flees into the jungle, leading Venom to the abandoned mining town they faced off at in Venom Returns. Venom appears camouflaged in the sky, and not triggering Spider-Man's spider sense, he lands a blow before lifting up a giant bulldozer, ready to smash Spider-Man once and for all. Suddenly, Venom is hit by a large sonic beam from the Fantastic Four's vehicle, and while Human Torch lands, Spider-Man makes a desperate plea to Venom, telling him that there's another symbiote on the loose, that it had bonded with his old cellmate Cletus Kasady, and that together they were butchering innocent people all across New York. Upon hearing that innocent people were being harmed, Venom regains the symbiote and tells Spider-Man to keep talking. Eddie consults with the symbiote and learns that since symbiotes of their kind have no interest in their offspring, no family structure to speak of, that his other had not felt it was important to tell Eddie about Carnage's birth. He says that he regards innocence as a precious thing to be protected, and agrees to come with Spider-Man to stop and kill Carnage before he kills any more innocent people. And in exchange, when it's over, he goes free. Spider-Man agrees and they return to New York together, web-swinging after Carnage with Venom able to track where his offspring is. They corner Carnage in the apartment of one of his victims, and Venom tells him that it's an obscene misuse of their power to use it to murder innocent people. And Carnage tells him that they could kill Spider-Man together right now, but Venom and Spider-Man tackle Carnage to the ground, hoping to use brute strength to apprehend him quickly. Carnage grabs them and slams them both together, throwing them clear through two different walls, and then ripping through the floor to deal with a complaining neighbor. He grabs her baby, yelling out to Brock that if he cared about innocence to watch this, and chucks the baby out of the window, with both Venom and Spider-Man leaping from the building to save it. They both shoot webbing after it, but Spider-Man's misses while Venom saves the child. Carnage finds a way to stop Venom from being able to track him, but Spider-Man finds a newspaper article of J. Jonah Jameson which Carnage has stabbed a hole through the head. Meanwhile, Carnage goes right after J. Jonah Jameson at his office at the Daily Bugle, grabbing him and once again declaring his philosophy that law and order are only illusions and that by casting them aside you could do anything, which again usually just amounts to killing people. Spider-Man and Venom swing through the city, a strange alliance as at this point Venom was still being billed as the most dangerous Spider-Man villain of all time. And when Spider-Man suggests they call the Avengers, Venom says that they may not honor the agreement Spider-Man made to let Venom go free afterwards. They stop off at the Daily Bugle to find that Carnage has taken Jameson to find an audience for his murder, to spread his message of random chaos to receptive ears. Spider-Man asks Venom for more information on Cletus Kasady from Brock's time as his cellmate, and Brock says that he was an uncouth loner, preferring to lay around listening to heavy metal instead of joining Brock in his training. As a host for the symbiote, Eddie Brock is in peak human condition at this point in the comics, which in Marvel rules means lifting about 700 pounds without the symbiote. While without the Carnage symbiote, Cletus Kasady is just a normal guy. The Carnage symbiote is strong enough that it not only balances that out, but surpasses the raw strength of Venom purely from the strength of the Carnage symbiote alone. We see symbiotes being stronger than their parents again much later in the comics when Toxin, the son of Carnage, is born. For more information on Toxin and the symbiotes in general, check out the Origin of Toxin and Toxin Reborn episodes of Comic History. Spider-Man and Venom find a random girl shoved violently through a brick wall, and Venom threatens the witnesses if they don't tell them which way Carnage went. Spider-Man sees a poster for a heavy metal concert and decides that that must be where Carnage went for his audience. Carnage jumps onto the stage saying, "Hey kids, I'm Carnage. I kill people, and you can too," randomly killing a few people and encouraging the audience to join in. One random psycho says okay and tries to stab another concert goer, but Spider-Man stops the knife while Venom jumps up through the floor to save Jameson from Carnage. Though Brock does say that JJ doesn't look innocent to him. A fight breaks out which leads down through the street into a crowded subway station, which Carnage decides is the perfect place to start offing people randomly, with the deaths of innocents infuriating Venom, who vows that Carnage will pay for every drop of blood. Venom and Spider-Man web up the tunnel to stop Carnage in his tracks, and leap into a fight with Spider-Man getting knocked away by Carnage's strange blade attacks, and the Venom symbiote becoming entangled in a fight with Carnage's symbiote, in which they both tried to rip each other apart. Spider-Man saves Venom by knocking Carnage onto the third rail, which shocks him but doesn't slow him down at all, and Carnage returns to the stadium to capture and kill Jameson, who was only caught because he stayed there to call in the story to the paper. Venom fights with Carnage while Spider-Man goes to the stadium's audio controls, setting a frequency to the same settings as the Fantastic Four's sonic weaponry. Spider-Man turns it on at full blast, incapacitating both Carnage and Venom, but Eddie says that the older symbiote can take more damage than the younger, and that he can withstand the attack long enough for Carnage to be defeated. Cletus lies naked on the floor with the Carnage symbiote apparently dissolved into nothing, though it would be shown to have survived by bonding with Cletus's blood on a cellular level in Maximum Carnage, his most famous storyline, and a topic for a future episode of comic history. Spider-Man then refuses to turn the sound off, deciding to go back on his deal with Venom and capture him as well. But Venom's hatred for Spider-Man allows him to fight back, wrapping his hands around Spider-Man's throat and yelling that they'll destroy him. When the Fantastic Four shows up armed with another sonic rifle, blasting Venom and revealing that Spider-Man had this double-cross plan the entire time, capturing Venom and once again locking him away. And that wraps up the origin of Carnage, a fan-favorite symbiote and staple character of Spider-Man comics. People love Carnage, and I do as well, especially when he's written well. He's such a simple, over-the-top, and stupid character that it's fun to see where his insanity can lead a story. I will be covering a ton of Carnage stories in the future, and have done a multitude of symbiote episodes on comic history. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and check out the comic history playlist on the channel, where you can find every episode of comic history. If there's a storyline, character, or origin you'd like to see an episode of comic history on, go check out our Patreon and donate at patreon.com/rnsentertainment. One of the donation rewards is to commission any story you want, both helping the channel grow and getting content specifically for you. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at Roman_RNS, like and follow us on Facebook, go follow my Instagram, Fusion Cosplay, subscribe to our gaming channel, RNS Gaming, and I'll see you guys next time.